Tonight, Olympic cyclist Rowan Dennis emerges in public as the grieving family of the wife he's accused of killing pays tribute to a freewheeling spirit. Revealed the 75-year-old truckie charged over SA's deadly derailment. Fears that patient lives are at risk as an urgent report into managing of ramping is delayed. Where's Wally, the giant galah, helped by a thief to take flight from the Lowell McEwen Hospital? And a plea from David Warner, his baggy green goes missing on the eve of his farewell test.
This is Adelaide's 9 News.
Good evening. The parents of Melissa Hoskins have released a heartfelt statement saying they're utterly devastated and still struggling to process the death of their daughter. Her husband, Rowan Dennis, is charged over her death. Our cameras were there as he left their Medindi home today.
Emerging from his family home, a solemn and silent Rowan Dennis.
Ron, can you tell us what happened that night?
The Olympian cyclist accused of killing his wife at the weekend while at the wheel of his ute.
Did you have an argument? Rowan, what happened?
His appearance from the home where he's been living on bail with the couple's children, coming just half an hour after Melissa's heartbroken parents released a statement. Words cannot convey our grief, sadness at the tragic circumstances of Melissa's passing. Not only have we lost a daughter and sister, her children have lost their mum, a freewheeling spirit, a giver with a big heart, patience and zest for life. She was the rock of their life and ours, and we need to honour her memory so they can grow up knowing who she was, what she stood for and what she gave to everyone whose life she touched.
Best bit of advice I've ever been given would be from Dad, and it was get up, get over it and get on with it.
Melissa was herself an Olympic champion. Teammate Annette Edmondson today sharing her memories of Melissa, in particular her fun character. The Australian and global cycling community is tight-knit. Most knew both Rowan and Melissa.
Soon after this tragedy, we will be able to come together as a community and console each other. I think that's going to be very important for all of us that are left wondering why.
Dennis is charged with causing death by dangerous driving and an act to endanger life. Exactly how the crash occurred, still unknown.
I am thinking about the kids, the two children that have been left behind, and that's who we should really be focusing on at the moment.
A memorial service will be held for Melissa in Adelaide after the Tour Down Under, while her funeral will be held in her hometown of Perth. Will?
Kelly Hughes, thank you for the very latest. A truck driver has faced court over the deadly crash with a freight train on the Barrier Highway. Live to Gus McDonald. Gus, he has been granted bail.
He has, Will, but the Queensland truck driver won't be allowed to leave the state. 75-year-old Kevin Pearson faced court today over that major crash with a freight train on the Barrier Highway. He was granted bail to a local caravan park and will be required to attend Port Pirie Police Station daily as part of his freedom conditions. Two Port Augusta train drivers, Kevin Baker and Mick Warren, were killed in the crash. The court heard Pearson's been driving heavy vehicles for more than 50 years. Blenders Transport, who owns the truck Mr. Pearson was driving, refused to comment when contacted today. The Barrier Highway has now reopened, but drivers will be restricted to 25 kilometres an hour as they pass by the crash site. And Mr. Pearson's next court appearance will be in April.
All right, Gus McDonald, thank you. A Seaton man is told at the moment his workshop caught fire. The bike mechanic says he was using a welder to make repairs before he was suddenly forced to run for his life.
John Kalea gasps for air as he watches his workshop of more than 30 years erupt in flames.
It was so quick, even I couldn't believe it.
The 68-year-old was welding a scooter in his shed when the blaze ignited just before midnight. Fire crews quickly descending on Tapleys Hill Road, working to douse the flames, desperate to stop them spreading to John's adjoining house.
Spot fires everywhere all around me. And it was really, the tanks were on fire.
He's taken in a lot of smoke. We don't advise going into a fire like that. Toxic chemical gases. You're not going to last long in a fire like that if you don't have any breathing, respiratory protection.
Paramedics soon on scene. John treated for minor burns to his hands.
From kicking those fuel cells out. because I thought they were going to blow.
The extent of damage today revealed. Charred remains all that's left of John's workshop. The damage bill put at $70,000.
The equipment's burnt, the actual welder itself. I've got another welder there, it's pretty damaged.
Firefighters say John was lucky to escape major injury and have issued a warning about the dangers of using welders.
Use the safety screens when you're welding. Make sure that you don't have combustible materials in close proximity.
John now left with a big clean-up, but grateful it wasn't worse.
Very grateful. You know, my dad built the place and I got family heritage.
Michaela Kamarek, 9 News.
Equipment to grow cannabis has been uncovered in Woodville South after a blaze took hold of the apartment it was stored in. Emergency services were called to Caloundra Avenue just after 10 last night. 2 people needed to be evacuated as firefighters saved the adjoining apartments. Police are investigating but believe the hydroponics were not being used at the time, so didn't start the fire. The repair bill is estimated at $100,000. They were scandalous claims made by leading doctors that sick patients had died in Adelaide Emergency Department waiting rooms because of bureaucratic attempts to drive down ambulance ramping. The state government ordered an urgent independent review. But tonight, they're being accused of taking too long, leaving others at risk.
New year, same old problem. Patients stuck in ambulances for more than 2 hours today. Even worse at the Royal Adelaide yesterday, when some had to be diverted to the Lyle McEwen, 30 minutes drive away.
This time of year is usually much quieter than winter, and yet we're seeing very high levels of ramping.
The government's promised to fix ramping, but last month hospital bosses' methods were called into question when the Doctors' Union went public with claims that ambulance patients were being wrongly prioritised over those already inside emergency departments. Bureaucratic interference, it says, has cost lives.
There should not be any interference, bureaucratic, political or otherwise.
The Health Minister ordered a clinical review and said he hoped it would be finished by Christmas.
Now, that hasn't happened. They need to either come out and tell us why it hasn't happened, when it will be released, and what the outcomes of this review are.
The man who triggered the review says he's yet to have any formal talks with the independent experts leading it.
I've had one brief conversation with them, but that's the extent so far.
The Health Minister wasn't available to answer our questions on camera today, but the government did issue a statement saying it wants this review to be thorough and not rushed through.
We want it done both. We want it done properly and quickly.
The government says it expects the review to be finalised in coming weeks, but still won't commit to a deadline. Ben Terry, 9 News.
A fright on the freeway for the driver of a station wagon that burst into flames. It happened about 5 this afternoon. The burnt-out wreck now sitting just past the tunnels on the up track. Other drivers are being urged to take care as they go past. Fortunately, no one was injured. A motorbike has been clocked at more than 200 kilometres an hour on the Southern Expressway. The bike was eventually seized by police after it was tracked from the air to Mitcham. 21-year-old Highgate man who didn't hold a licence has been charged and will face court in March. A powerful New Year's Day earthquake in central Japan has killed at least 30 people, destroyed buildings and knocked out power to tens of thousands of homes. The 7.6 magnitude quake also triggered tsunami warnings, with coastal residents escaping to higher ground.
The destructive force and fiery aftermath of a powerful quake. This is Wajima, where more than 200 buildings have been destroyed. An elderly man confirmed dead after being recovered from a collapsed house there. Others are critical after being trapped under rubble. Many are still feared missing. At magnitude 7.6, this was the strongest earthquake in the region in more than 4 decades. It struck the Noto Peninsula on the country's west coast around 4:30 in the afternoon. That set off waves of 1 metre along the coast and triggered major tsunami warnings, although they were later downgraded. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida urged residents to leave tsunami warning areas, adding that everything was being done to accelerate disaster relief efforts.
The self-defense forces will face many difficulties reaching the disaster-hit areas because roads have been cut off, but people trapped in buildings should be rescued as soon as possible before the buildings collapse.
But the fear here was all too evident. Houses tumbled down hillsides as the land gave way. In Noto, terrified residents surveyed the damage. Roads buckled and power lines toppled, leaving tens of thousands without power. Buildings were inundated as water pipes burst. Millions of Japanese traditionally visit shrines and temples on January 1, the force of the quake taking a toll on ancient monuments. It's also the height of the ski season. Chairlifts suspended with skiers left to wait for the rocking to stop. Patrons at this Ishikawa karaoke bar shaken in their seats. Shaken too, vehicles in this car park. Around 1,400 people were also trapped on bullet trains as services were halted. Cameras everywhere capturing the intensity of this quake and the damage left in its wake. Japan is popular with Australians right now, most experiencing an earthquake for the first time. Matt Clayworth, his daughter and friends recording their moment of terror.
The whole building sort of shook. We're all in a little bit of shock and disbelief. I was quite violent.
They weren't alone.
I'm actually scared as. What the No, it's actually shaking is so much. I thought I was going to die.
The intensity of this quake, not just down to magnitude, but how shallow it was.
That's why you're seeing a lot of the impacts in the homes and in buildings and roads cracking, because it was so shallow and such a high magnitude quake. It's those things combined.
And as bad as this was, Japan's early warning system
Earthquake.
There it is. And tough building codes are credited with lessening the potential damage and death toll. Aftershocks and tremors are expected over the next week in a nation still feeling the effects of the 2011 earthquake and tsunami that killed 20,000. Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
It's been confirmed an Australian-born Israeli soldier has been killed while fighting Hamas in Gaza. 32-year-old Captain Lior Savan was killed in a battle just before Christmas, his father describing him as a hero.
And even though my son loved life, creation, nature and peace, he saw as a very important task to defend the country and the people.
Captain Savan moved from Melbourne to Israel as an infant and later became a mechanical engineer. His wife is expecting their second child. A woman's been convicted in the Elizabeth Magistrates Court for animal cruelty over the starvation of her pet dog. But Shannon McDonald, it's taken an unusually long time.
Well, the 43-year-old woman repeatedly failed to turn up to court, which finally ended with her arrest on New Year's Eve over the starvation of her pet staffy, Jet. The 2-year-old was found by RSPCA inspectors all the way back in August 2019. He was half the body weight he should have been, his spine, ribs and skull showing through his skin. Now, Jet was fortunately able to be rehabilitated by vets and now has a new home. His former owner told investigators she hadn't been able to afford to feed him daily and did notice he had been losing weight for months. At one point, seeing him laying down, she thought he had died. She's now been convicted, banned from owning animals and has to pay prosecution costs, but despite repeatedly failing to turn up to court, has spent just one night in custody. Meantime, there remains a warrant out for the arrest of her 44-year-old co-accused, who has also failed to show up to court.
All right, Shannon McDonald, thank you. Well, a game of Where's Wally is playing out across Adelaide's north. Wally the galah, the subject of a large painting stolen from the waiting room of the cardiology unit at the Lower McEwen Hospital. Valued at nearly $3,000, it was bought from a local artist and donated 2 years ago. Now, a man wearing high-vis walking in and removing it from the wall 3 days ago. Police have now reported a 38-year-old from Salisbury Heights who believe they stole the painting. But Wally still hasn't been found. Ramps will be replacing the stairs and a lift as part of a $35 million upgrade to make the Adelaide Festival Centre more accessible. Fire safety will also be improved at the same time. The government says the work's not covered by the recent $90 million upgrade.
This is certainly something that's been welcomed by people who need that accessibility. To have that lift is certainly a lot easier than the ramp behind me.
The works will be complete in 2026. On the eve of his final test, Dave Warner is tonight making an appeal of a different kind. The test opener calling for the public's help to find his baggy green cap. It went missing somewhere between Melbourne and Sydney.
A final photo shoot before David Warner hangs up his baggy green. But that might not be physically possible. The one he's wearing isn't his.
Unfortunately, someone has taken my backpack out of my actual luggage. Inside this backpack was my baggy greens.
This is a backup. His actual baggy green is missing, possibly stolen.
That's sentimental to me. It's something that I would love to have back in my hands walking out there come this week.
Warner claims after the Boxing Day test he organised for his luggage with the baggy green inside to be freighted home. Qantas in charge of delivering it to Sydney, but when it arrived at his place, the backpack and the baggy green were gone. This is now the search area. And Qantas say it's doing its bit, searching the terminals in Melbourne and Sydney and reviewing CCTV. We appreciate the importance of this bag and we're doing everything we can to help find it. Helping, in her own way, Schapelle Corby, taking to social media, reminding Warner and the world she's got her own grudge against baggage handlers. Commenting on Instagram, Qantas, well, do I have a story for you? But Warner has found an off-field ally.
I think there should be a countrywide search right now from the Australian government.
In on-field rival, Pakistan captain Shan Masood.
Yeah, it's the most precious sort of thing for any cricketer, and I hope David Warner gets it back.
They are more than precious. A baggy green symbolises the tradition and 144-year history of our nation's team. Just about every cricket-playing Australian kid dreams of wearing one. Very few have the privilege. Presented to the players on the morning of their first test match, it has become customary to have the same one until retirement. The more worn and weathered, the better. Baggy green or not, David Warner will be starting his final test match tomorrow morning here at his home ground of the SCG. And to make sure he's reunited with his baggy green before then, he's offering a peace deal.
If it's the backpack that you really wanted, I have a spare one here. You won't get into trouble. Please reach out to Cricket Australia or myself via my social media.
The clock is ticking. Alex Sankey, 9 News.
And Corey Norris, the Aussies will stick with a winning formula tomorrow.
Yeah, well, Pat Cummins and his men are in absolute cruise control, so no need to tinker with that lineup. Good evening tonight. We'll hear from the Aussie skipper, and while Sydney's weather and new-look pitch are keeping him guessing, the captain has a very clear view on the game's future challenges. Also, Novak Djokovic battles the elements as he eyes off a date with a raging demon.
Thanks very much, Corey. See you soon. A store smashed apart. Next on 9 News, the moment a car comes crashing into a shop, pinning a pedestrian underneath. Plus, the Defence Force called in as the flooding crisis continues in Queensland. A van has smashed through the front of a shop in Sydney, trapping a pedestrian, leaving her badly injured. Police say the man behind the wheel was nearly 3 times over the legal limit.
A Homebush West corner store about to be turned upside down. Smashing through the shop front, a VW Caddy explodes into view. The impact horrific enough until the realisation a woman is trapped underneath.
There was just this screaming from this lady and it was horrible. It was really bad.
27-year-old Shruti Kumari was walking past the store on Hornsey Street yesterday evening when she was hit and catapulted inside.
No, she's all right. She's okay? She's all right?
Pinned and covered in debris, bystanders rush to help. At one point, these two men pull her up, but unable to hold herself, she slides back down. After nearly 30 minutes, she's freed, taken to Westmead Hospital with leg injuries, where she remains in a serious condition. The shop, one giant mess.
I'm thinking it's
Imagine what happened to that vehicle getting inside. That means a lot of damages, a lot of things happening. So I don't want to ask him what individually what happened.
The alleged driver, 52-year-old Sang Lee, was arrested by police a few hundred metres away at his home, accused of fleeing the scene. He blew nearly 3 times the legal limit, .133. How many drinks did you have yesterday, Sang? He was granted bail late this afternoon, hit with a string of serious charges. You're accused of seriously injuring a young woman. You crashed into a shop. Do you have anything to say at all about the charges? His passenger also arrested and taken to hospital for checkups, but has since been released. As part of his bail conditions, Lee, a South Korean national, must forfeit his passport. He's also not allowed to drive or drink alcohol and must report to police daily. Shop owner Lingham had shut the video and spice store just a few hours before the crash. It's one of his first evenings he's taken off in 24 years.
I don't know what to do, and then how long will it take to clean up. Very, very hard at the moment. I couldn't sleep even last night.
James Wilson, 9 News.
An unrelenting weather system has smashed large parts of Queensland again. More than 300 millimetres of rain creating dangerous flash flooding. Dozens of people have now had to be rescued.
His backyard swallowed up by a raging river. This is Michael Bulgen's Wongawallen home, his castle by the creek, and it's under siege.
There's our lovely road.
Filming this video minutes before they were rescued by the SES. Returning today, the water's gone down, but emotions are bubbling up as reality sinks in.
Just to have it all taken away in a flash, it's just heartbreaking.
Rivers raging, rising rapidly across the Gold Coast at Austinville in the hinterland. A sedan turned whitewater raft. Luckily, no one's inside as it's whisked away. 250 millimetres falling on the GC in some areas, and you can tell in Coomera.
There's no one on it, surely.
Pontoons ripped from their moorings south of the border at Kyogle, as close a call as they come. Desperate calls for extra boots on the ground have finally been approved. 50 ADF personnel and high clearance vehicles.
Those ADF personnel will be focusing on the clearance of debris.
Already on the ground, SES workers receiving more than 700 calls for help in the last 24 hours. Swiftwater rescue crews saving dozens of campers caught out by rapid river rises. 700 Energy Queensland workers out in force today, targeting areas where households have been in the dark for more than a week. No power means no income for small businesses.
We're up to $500,000 in losses.
Stephen Miles on the Gold Coast today, bringing some relief to those impacted.
They'll provide disaster assistance loans of up to $250,000 for producers and small businesses.
As one coast starts to recover, another is in the firing line. The Sunshine Coast now preparing to be saturated. Lily Greer, 9 News.
The interim report into the SeaWorld helicopter tragedy has revealed bombshell new details on the day survivors and loved ones of those killed marked 1 year since the crash. The pilot, who died in the collision, found to have traces of cocaine in his system, and he was not drug tested before his shift.
A pair of helicopters collided near SeaWorld in Australia.
People on jet skis and in boats rushed to the scene.
January 2, 2023, global headlines for a tragedy unfolding here at home. Two SeaWorld helicopters colliding over the Gold Coast Broadwater, killing 4 people. British newlyweds Ron and Diane Hughes, Sydney mother Vanessa Tadros, and pilot Ash Jenkinson.
There's been some more facts that have come to light.
1 year on, an interim report from the crash investigation has revealed the toxicology results of Ash Jenkinson's autopsy.
There was traces of cocaine metabolites, which indicate an exposure to cocaine somewhere between 1 and potentially up to 4 days prior to the incident.
The report states it's unlikely there would have been impairment of his psychomotor skills, but it's not known whether post-cocaine exposure effects of the drug had any effect on his performance. The 58-page document, which also considers airspace congestion and records of radio calls, goes on to say, on the day of the accident, neither pilot was screened for drugs, and by the evidence available, drug testing was not a regular practice.
It certainly is something that we do need to bring to light.
Ash Jenkinson oversaw SeaWorld Helicopter's drug and alcohol management plan, a policy the organisation says exceeds legal requirements. His family requesting the finding doesn't tarnish his memory or the hours and days of good deeds he did during his lifetime. Winnie De Silva and her now 10-year-old son Leon were on board his chopper.
And we realised that the helicopter was just crashing into the ground without stopping. A pilot trying all his best to fix I don't know what.
They're grateful to have survived, but this anniversary is a painful reminder of how close they came to losing their lives.
So we're trying to put life into perspective. We are pushing ahead with everything we want to do.
Ron Hughes' children releasing a touching tribute to their father and his partner Diane. They are missed immensely. They were both still so young and full of life, making the most of every day. Abby Guerin, 9 News.
In the news ahead, no longer protected by copyright, the original Mickey Mouse cartoon now in the public domain, what it means next. Plus, Mary takes centre stage a day after the move that will make her Queen of Denmark. Thousands of Israeli troops are being withdrawn from Gaza as the military prepares for a new phase of the war. More targeted operations against Hamas are expected, Israeli officials confirming the conflict will continue throughout the year. Israel's Supreme Court has struck down a controversial law that was passed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government in July. The law took away the High Court's powers to void unreasonable decisions made by the government and sparked mass protests around the country. South Korea's opposition leader has been attacked during a visit to a construction site. The unidentified man lunged at the politician through a crowd using a knife-like weapon to stab his neck. Police arrested the man on the spot. The opposition leader was treated for a small laceration. A deadly fiery crash in the American state of New York is being investigated as possible terrorism. 2 people were killed and 5 people injured when 2 cars collided near an entertainment centre car park. Numerous gas cans were found at the scene. Princess Mary has made her first public appearance since it was announced she will soon become Queen of Denmark. The Danish people already excited to see the Australian take the throne.
In shades of deep royal red and a tiara made for the coronation of Napoleon, Princess Mary looked every bit the future Queen as she arrived for the annual New Year's Gala at Amalienborg Palace. Cheers from crowds waiting in the rain. Mary and husband, Crown Prince Frederik, pausing to wave before meeting dignitaries inside. This will be the last time Queen Margrethe hosts the event before she becomes the first Danish monarch to abdicate since 1523. Since becoming a royal, Princess Mary has worked hard to establish herself as a popular future queen. She's aligned herself with dozens of charities and organisations around the world and has set up her own foundation.
She looked at the Danes and our culture and tried from day one to be a part of the Danish people. And she succeeded.
While there will be no coronation ceremony after the abdication on January 14, there will be a proclamation. In 1972, after the sudden death of her father, King Frederik IX, Margrethe was proclaimed Queen by the Prime Minister. In a brief speech, she asked the Danish people for their support. And over 5 decades, she clearly received it. The verdict in too for her successors. How do you think Mary will go?
She will go very, very well.
Ready
I
for
think
the
she
job?
will be, yeah, because she's from Australia, of course she's ready.
In Copenhagen, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
Bill Clinton is expected to be named when hundreds of court documents related to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein are made public. According to ABC America, the former US president is referred to as John Doe 36 in the documents filed in a civil lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell. There is no indication that the documents will implicate Bill Clinton in any illegal conduct. Holidaymakers celebrating the new year have been confronted with a wall of flames in southern Spain. Residents and tourists near Malaga were forced to evacuate as the fire spread. Authorities now investigating if a firework sparked that blaze. Today marks a new era for Mickey Mouse in the public domain. Disney has now lost copyright protections for the original cartoon of the character after the 95-year term expired.
The year was 1928, and with his spindly legs, Mickey Mouse made his debut in his purest form. One of the first cartoons with sound, Steamboat Willie was a game changer for the history of animation. Now the world's most famous mouse is on the market, as well as his partner, with some caveats. The US copyright protections for this primitive black and white version of Mickey have expired, meaning Disney no longer has the rights to control it. Anyone can use the images without needing permission.
We will be able to do to the great works of Disney what Disney did to the great works of the public domain before him.
The copyright protections were set to expire years ago until Disney lobbied Congress to pass an extension. And while the original incarnation of Mickey is fair game, Disney has reminded the public it still owns the modern versions and the trademark. That trademark will safeguard how Mickey is repurposed.
You cannot use the characters in a way that misleads consumers into thinking that Disney has produced your product.
In 2022, the copyright protections of Winnie the Pooh expired and the character was reworked into a slasher film, which was critically shunned and then pulled from theatres in Hong Kong. In Los Angeles, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
The Royals are used to cameras, but not quite like this. The King and Queen filmed from a carriage cam as they travelled to the state opening of Parliament in November. The vision posted by Buckingham Palace, along with a series of pictures as the Royals reflected on the year that was. A scalping warning to Swifties. When 9 News returns, scammers targeting fans with overpriced and illegal tickets to Taylor Swift's shows. Plus the diabetes breakthrough that could spell the end of insulin injections. The keyboardist for Australian band Ocean Alley has been forced to apologise after he was caught shoplifting from a camping store in New Zealand. The Queenstown shop sharing this picture showing the moment he took the $17 bottle lid.
It is a moment that I am not proud of at all and one that I have deep regret and remorse for. I am so sorry for disappointing all of our fans, the team at the store and, of course, the band.
He says he's contacted the store and rectified the situation. Australian researchers have had a breakthrough that could spell the end of insulin injections for diabetics. The world-first discovery was made by the Baker Institute and involves the use of 2 cancer drugs.
Diabetes is everywhere and it can come out of nowhere. Just 5 months ago, Amelia Travers, at 35 years of age, was diagnosed. Everyday life turned on its head.
Food to exercise to sleeping, everything changes very, very quickly.
1.9 million Australians are in the same boat, checking insulin levels, blood tests, injections. Tonight, though, for those with the type 1 condition, a breakthrough from Melbourne scientists. They even dare to utter that word.
This is an important breakthrough and potentially disease-modifying and eventually cure.
Diabetes kills pancreatic cells that produce insulin. The Baker Heart and Diabetes Institute taking a sample and then injecting it with already approved cancer drugs. By blocking insulin-suppressing molecules, they were able to revive insulin-producing pancreas cells within 2 days. In theory, no more insulin devices needed. But it won't happen overnight. The next step is animal testing, then hopefully human trials. That could take 5, perhaps 10 years. And the key hurdle, as always, is funding.
The gap between fundamental research and clinical research is paramount, and we're aware of that.
Still, for those like Amelia, it's hope, and they'll take it.
We might be able to say at least goodbye to some of this 24/7 job.
Adam Hegarty, 9 News.
Authorities are working to make sure Taylor Swift fans who really want an MCG seat aren't being ripped off. Already at least 1,500 dodgy tickets have been detected. Officials threatening big fines, but so far none have been handed out.
The luckiest fans secured their tickets last year. But before Taylor Swift takes over the MCG next month, dodgy scalpers are bringing bad blood.
Literally, as I speak, we are monitoring websites and we are tracking down and we are removing illegal tickets, issuing warnings.
So far, inspectors have found more than 1,500 scam listings on websites like Gumtree, eBay and StubHub. Among the most cruel this summer, a ticket that was bought for $380 being advertised for more than $2,200.
Why you gotta be so mean?
And while those trying to rip off desperate fans can be fined,
Up to $10,000 per individual or up to $50,000 per corporation.
the Swifties themselves are being warned to steer the getaway car well clear, with illegally sold tickets potentially void and therefore useless at the MCG gates.
We also have people from Consumer Affairs, law enforcement there on the day.
Now, if you're like me and still desperately hoping to snag a spot in these stands, there's only one authorised way to do it, and that's through Ticketek's official resale marketplace. Buying and selling Tay-Tay tickets on that platform has been allowed since November, but trust me, the listings are few and far between. The most important thing to remember is that anything more than 10% above the original purchase price is against the law. If you're also on the hunt, keep your fingers crossed for good karma. So we'll all be shaking it off in February. Stephanie Anderson, 9 News.
All right, time for sport with Corey Norris. Corey, it's been a reflective Pat Cummins ahead of tomorrow's third test.
Yeah, he's opened up, Will, on why this year's pink test holds a very special place in his heart. Up next, all the latest from the SCG. And as for Davey's final lap, it could turn in a few surprises. Plus, Novak Djokovic feels the pinch in Perth. Hello again. Australian captain Pat Cummins has revealed he holds genuine fears for the future of Test cricket, with T20 leagues now regularly prioritised. The skipper's immediate focus lies with securing a series whitewash and sending David Warner out a winner at the SCG.
You just never know what you're going to get in Sydney.
Even on game day it says it's a 100% chance of rain, and then you get on for a whole day and the next day it's meant to be blue skies and you miss a day.
Skipper Pat Cummins inspecting the deck, one which the curator promises will spin and offer a better contest after 4 of the past 5 SCG tests ended in uninspiring draws.
We've done a little bit of work in the off-season. We were able to take out a bit of soil and put back some fresh bulleye soil, and we've relayed the turf. So we're hoping for a little bit of good carry and then for it to break up.
An unchanged lineup for the Aussies, the focus on one man only.
Yeah, Warner week started. Best case scenario, 100. A leg spinner maybe to take the last wicket of the game or something. Out of the rough. Well, I only just thought of it.
The team prepping for life without the 37-year-old.
It's going to be a bit of an adjustment, especially a big personality like Davey, even off the field as much as on the field.
T20 was where Warner launched his career, but Cummins fears the game's shortest form is now threatening Test cricket after South Africa's decision to name a subpar squad to tour New Zealand in order to prioritise its domestic 2020 league.
I think there is an issue just with the amount of other cricket out there. Every summer feels bigger than the last here in Australia, but obviously going overseas it's not the case. So in some regards, yeah, I'm a little bit worried.
This year's match carries extra significance for Cummins. It's the first pink test since his mum Maria died from breast cancer.
Spent many a day here, even when I wasn't playing, kind of dressed up in pink, supporting the day. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a special week.
Braden Ingram, 9 News.
On the eve of his Australian Open defence, Novak Djokovic is battling through a painful arm injury. The world number one still closed in on a United Cup meeting with Alex de Minaur, who powered Australia into the quarterfinals.
Novak Djokovic winced in pain as he received treatment on his arm during his United Cup singles rubber.
Maybe there's something here that's a bit more significant than we think, and that is a worry.
It came after the Serb dropped the second set against Czech Jiri Lehecka.
That's wide. And second set. And we've got a third set coming our way.
Djokovic bounced back to claim the decider 6-1.
And Djokovic levels this tie for Team Serbia.
But doubts around his fitness will linger after he pulled out of the mixed doubles.
You just have to manage. You don't have to find a solution, and yeah, thankfully I managed to finish the match, and let's see what happens now.
Last night, the Aussies topped their group.
You're through to the quarterfinals.
Thanks to a show-stopping performance from Alex de Minaur. The world number 12 swept past American Taylor Fritz in straight sets.
It's definitely up there with, probably top 5 or best matches I've played.
A clash with the Serbian superstar, now on the Aussies' mind.
He's probably the GOAT, if we're honest. He started the year strong. It's going to be obviously extremely tough, but it'll be a challenge that I'll be looking forward to.
Stefanos Tsitsipas withdrew from his United Cup singles rubber with a back complaint.
It's not a great way to start the season.
The world number 6 returned for the mixed doubles, but Greece went down to Chile. Meanwhile, Ash Barty took baby Hayden out to watch Arina Rodionova overcome Australian Open champ Sofia Kenin.
What a moment and what a win!
The 34-year-old now through to the Brisbane International round of 16. Nat Unides, 9 News.
Liverpool star Mo Salah was at his blistering best as the Reds overpowered Newcastle 4-2 to move 3 points clear on top of the table. And after being denied from the spot, Salah bounced back to score his 150th Premier League goal and added to his tally late following a questionable penalty.
So for the second time this evening, Salah steps up and this time it scores.
Manager Jurgen Klopp briefly lost his wedding ring in the celebrations. He's now unbeaten in 13 games. And 16-year-old darts sensation Luke Littler is continuing his stunning World Championships debut, becoming the youngest ever player to make the semi-finals.
Double four for a semi-final spot. There is no sign of this teenage dream coming to an end.
Littler has now pocketed $186,000 in prize money, a life-changing sum given the teen's usual daily routine.
Just wake up, play on my Xbox, have some food and have a chuck on the board and go to bed, that's it.
You'll play fellow Englishman Rob Crossfray, finals berth after the 2018 champ won 5 straight sets to avoid elimination. Well done to you, Luke Littler, but 16, he's got to be the oldest looking 16-year-old I've ever seen.
He's
got a beard.
I reckon I was 36 and I could grow a beard, Corey. Anyway, let's move on. Thank you. Weather details are coming up after the break. First, though, a look at tomorrow's speed cameras. Stay with us.
Wake up and laugh with Adelaide's #1 breakfast show.
Rudits and Laws tomorrow on 104.7 Triple M.
For the latest Adelaide news and traffic.
To finance, it was a positive day on the share market with the ASX inching closer to record highs. The materials sector continues to lead. BHP finished higher. The banks were up as well. The Australian dollar rose. It's buying 68 US cents, 62 euro cents and 53 British pence. Let's get to the weather now. Blue skies across the city today. We had a top of 28.9 degrees after a low of 17 overnight. Right now, still pretty good outside again, 26.6. In Elizabeth today, 31 degrees, Mawson Lakes 32, Glenelg 29, Noarlunga with 29, Mount Lofty a top of 28. Through the north of our state, summer's starting to bite through Coober Pedy and Roxby Downs, around 40 degrees there. Port Augusta 34, Port Pirie with 32. The Clare Valley also a warm 32 degrees. Through the south, very warm in Mount Gambier with 30. High Marsh Island just 20 degrees there. Kingscote also relatively cool, 22. Across the country tomorrow, some storms for Canberra and Melbourne. Hobart showers, 24 degrees. Some more wet weather through Brisbane, 30 degrees there. Warming up in Alice Springs, 43 degrees, 32 over in Perth. Let's check South Australia for tomorrow. The hot conditions continue. 41 degrees at Roxby Downs. Port Augusta, 30. Whyalla with 26. Port Lincoln, possible shower, 22 degrees. Looking through the south, it's staying fairly warm as well in most centres. Renmark up to 35 degrees. The Barossa, 27. Murray Bridge, 25. Victor Harbour, though, 20 degrees. Looking on the state waters and strong winds pretty much right along the South Australian coastline. If we check out metro waters, though, it's not looking too bad. Southerly, 15 knots, then moving southeasterly a little bit later in the day. Seas around about 1 metre. Across the suburbs tomorrow, well, a cloudy day on the way, but staying warm. Glenelg, Outer Harbour, Marion, 27 degrees. Golden Grove, 28. 29 in the northern suburbs, up in the hills in Mount Barker, 14 overnight and then 24. Noarlunga, partly cloudy, 26. In the city tomorrow, cloudy conditions as well. 27 degrees is the top, dropping down to a pleasant 17 overnight. Then looking at the week ahead, well, it's starting to warm up. Thursday hits 30 degrees, Friday 32, Saturday a warm summer's day, 31 degrees there. But then some wet weather moves in. Sunday 30, but possible showers. Monday also some showers all the way down to 23 degrees, and then a cloudy 23 this time next week. And that is Adelaide's 9 News for this Tuesday. I do hope you can join me again tomorrow night at 6. I'm Will McDonald. Have a great evening. For now, it is good night.